It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when the narrator, a man named Daniel, sat inside his house enjoying a rare moment of peace. He had just finished cleaning the kitchen and planned to relax with a cup of tea. The neighborhood was normally calm, the kind of place where birds sang in the trees and children rode bicycles without any trouble. But that afternoon, something strange was happening outside, something that Daniel could not ignore. As he carried his cup toward the living room window, he noticed a sudden movement on his driveway. At first, he thought it was a squirrel or maybe a stray cat. But then he looked again and his eyes widened. It was a boy, maybe 13 years old, standing next to Daniel's car. The boy wasn't just standing there casually. He was holding something in his hands. Something heavy. Something dangerous. A brick. Daniel froze for a moment, confused. The boy held the brick with both hands, lifting it slightly as if testing the weight. He had a strange smile on his face, the kind of smile that didn't look innocent. It was the smile of someone who had already decided to do something wrong. Someone who was enjoying it. Daniel felt his heartbeat pick up. He placed his cup on the table, stepped closer to the window, and tried to understand what was happening. "Who is that kid?" he whispered to himself. He recognized the boy's face. He had seen him before. The kid lived 2 houses down, Karen's son. And everyone in the neighborhood knew Karen. The queen of complaints. The storm of drama. The walking siren who could turn a small misunderstanding into a war. But what was her son doing next to Daniel's car? Why was he holding a brick? Suddenly, the boy turned his head slightly and looked around, checking if anyone was watching. Daniel stepped back from the window so the kid wouldn't see him. He peeked again carefully. The boy seemed excited, almost shaking with energy. He lifted the brick higher now, raising it above his shoulder. No way," Daniel muttered. Before he could rush outside, the boy lowered the brick again. He didn't throw it yet. Instead, he walked around the car slowly, like someone inspecting a target. He looked at the windows, the doors, the headlights. His fingers brushed across the car's shiny surface. And then he giggled. A small, wicked giggle that echoed in the quiet afternoon. Daniel felt a knot of worry in his stomach. This wasn't a child playing. This was a child planning. Finally unable to hold back, Daniel stormed toward the front door. He unlocked it, swung it open, and shouted, "Hey! What are you doing?" But the boy didn't run. He didn't look scared. He didn't even flinch. He just turned his head slightly, gave Daniel a cold smile, and then lifted the brick again. "Hey! Stop!" Daniel shouted, running down the steps. For a moment, he thought the boy would stop. That he would drop the brick. That he would walk away. But the boy's smile only grew wider. And then, right when Daniel reached halfway down the driveway. Crack! The brick smashed into the front headlight. The sound of breaking glass ripped through the air like a lightning strike. Fragments flew everywhere, sparkling under the sunlight. Daniel stopped in shock, staring at the damage, unable to say a word. The boy stepped back, dropped the brick on the ground, and laughed again, this time louder. Not the laugh of a scared kid trying to hide his mistake. But the laugh of someone who enjoyed every second of it. Daniel felt anger rising inside him. He pointed at the boy and shouted, "What is wrong with you? You can't just smash someone's car like that." But before he could say another word, another voice thundered through the air. "Don't you dare talk to my son." The voice was sharp. Loud. Filled with rage. It cut through the moment like a knife. Daniel turned toward the sound and saw her, Karen. She was storming out of her house as if she had been waiting for a reason to explode. Her face was red, her eyes wide, and her hair was flying wildly behind her as she marched toward them. Karen was a well-known figure in the neighborhood. Everybody tried to avoid her. She complained about everything: trash cans, dogs, kids playing too loudly, someone parking too close to her house, even birds chirping early in the morning. If there was a problem, she would find it. If there wasn't a problem, she would create it. Now she was charging toward Daniel like a bull seeing red. Her son quickly stood behind her, his laughter fading but his smirk still visible. Karen pointed her finger at Daniel and shouted, "How dare you yell at my child? Are you crazy?" Daniel blinked, stunned by her reaction. He pointed at his broken headlight. "He just threw a brick at my car. Look at this." But Karen didn't even look. She kept her eyes locked on Daniel like he was the criminal here. "My son would never do something like that," she said loudly, her voice shaking with fake shock. "He's a sweet boy." "You must be mistaken." "Mistaken?" Daniel raised his voice. "I saw him do it. I watched him with my own eyes." Karen crossed her arms, lifting her chin. "Well, maybe you thought you saw something. Maybe you misunderstood. Kids play. They don't destroy property." Daniel felt disbelief wash over him. He looked at the smashed glass on the ground. He looked at the brick. He looked at the kids still smirking behind her. There was no misunderstanding here. The evidence was clear. Right in front of them. Karen stepped closer, invading Daniel's space. "You better calm down right now," she hissed. "If you keep shouting at my son, I will call the police." Daniel almost laughed at how ridiculous that sounded. She wanted to call the police? For what? Her son was the one who had destroyed the car. "You need to look at the damage," Daniel tried again, controlling his voice. "This is serious." But Karen refused. She turned her head away dramatically and said, "I don't want to see anything." "You're scaring him." Daniel looked at the boy. The kid didn't look scared at all. He looked proud. He looked entertained. He looked like someone who knew his mother would protect him no matter what he did. Daniel felt helpless for a moment. He took a deep breath. He needed to think. He needed to calm down before things got worse. Then suddenly, something clicked in his mind. The camera. He had a security camera installed right above his garage. It pointed directly at the driveway. It had recorded everything. Every step. Every giggle. Every second of the crime. A small hope sparked inside him. Karen saw the look on Daniel's face and raised an eyebrow. "What are you smiling about?" Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he walked toward the side wall where the camera was mounted. He gestured toward it and said, "This recorded everything." Karen's face changed for a split second. Just a tiny flicker. But Daniel saw it. She wasn't expecting that. Suddenly, she didn't look so confident anymore. But she quickly recovered and scoffed. "Go ahead," she said loudly. "You won't find anything." Her son swallowed nervously. Daniel unlocked his phone with steady hands. He opened the security app. His heart was pounding. He selected the live feed. Then he tapped on the recording from 10 minutes earlier. And there it was. The perfect, crystal-clear video of the boy lifting the brick, smiling, and smashing the car. Daniel felt satisfaction rush through him. He slowly turned toward Karen, holding his phone out. "Do you still want to say he did nothing?" he asked quietly. Karen's face turned pale. Her son's smirk disappeared. The wind blew softly through the trees, but the silence between them was heavy. Very heavy. And this was only the beginning. For a long moment, no one said anything. The video kept playing on Daniel's phone, showing the boy lifting the brick and smashing the car again and again in a silent loop. Karen's face tightened. Her jaw moved as if she wanted to speak but couldn't find the right words. Her son slowly moved behind her, hiding halfway like a shadow trying to disappear. Daniel held the phone steady and calm. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't angry anymore. The truth was already out, and the video was stronger than any argument. But Karen was not the type of person to accept defeat. Her silence lasted only a few seconds. Then, suddenly, she snapped her hand toward the phone as if she wanted to grab it from Daniel's hand. Daniel quickly pulled it back. Don't touch my phone, he said firmly. Karen blinked fast, then tried to regain control. She lifted her chin again, straightened her shoulders, and changed her tone completely. Ridiculous confidence returned. That video means nothing, she declared, waving her hand as if the whole situation was just a small misunderstanding. Kids do silly things. He probably didn't know what he was doing. Daniel raised an eyebrow. He aimed at the headlight. He lifted the brick on purpose. He laughed while doing it. Karen didn't look at the screen anymore. She turned her eyes away, refusing to see the truth. He is 13, she said dramatically. His brain is still growing. He doesn't understand consequences. You are the adult here. You should know better than to accuse a child. Daniel almost laughed at the logic. A child with a brick? A child who smiled while smashing someone's car? Before he could respond, Karen stepped even closer, cutting the distance between them. Her perfume, strong and heavy, filled the air. She pointed her finger near his chest but didn't touch him. You are blowing this out of proportion, she hissed. My son is a good kid. Always has been. Always will be. Daniel glanced at the boy behind her. The kid's eyes were darting left and right, clearly nervous now that the situation was turning serious. He wasn't laughing anymore. His hands were shaking slightly. The brick incident was no longer funny to him. Karen continued, instead of yelling at him, you should be careful. You scared him with your shouting. Daniel sighed. I didn't scare him. He was laughing while smashing my car. Because he was nervous. Karen snapped instantly. Children laugh when they're scared. But Daniel remembered very clearly the mischievous grin on the boy's face. That was not a scared laugh. That was a this is funny laugh. Still, arguing with Karen felt like talking to a wall that refused to stand straight. Daniel crossed his arms. Look, all I want is for you to take responsibility. You saw the video. You know what happened. That was the moment Karen changed again. Her voice softened suddenly, but her eyes stayed sharp. So what do you want? She asked slowly. Money? An apology? Daniel frowned. Her tone wasn't calm, it was calculating. I want you to pay for the damage, he said. That's all. Karen scoffed loudly. Pay? Why should I pay? It's your fault for leaving your car outside. Daniel stared at her, confused. It's a driveway. That's where cars go. Karen crossed her arms tightly. Not my problem. You should keep your things safe. My son didn't do anything wrong on purpose. Daniel couldn't believe what he was hearing. He pointed again at the phone. The video shows him doing it on purpose. Karen rolled her eyes dramatically and said, maybe he thought it was a toy. Maybe he thought the light was some kind of game. The boy lifted his head slightly. It was clear he knew this was a lie, but Karen didn't care. She wasn't defending him because she believed him. She was defending him because she hated to be wrong. She hated losing. Daniel felt a wave of frustration rising again, but he stayed calm. He thought for a moment and said, okay. If you don't want to pay, then we can settle this another way. Karen narrowed her eyes suspiciously. What do you mean? Daniel took a deep breath. We can file a report. Let the authorities handle it. Karen snapped instantly. Absolutely not. You are not dragging my son into some legal nonsense. Daniel shrugged. Then you need to take responsibility. Karen opened her mouth to argue more, but before she could speak, her son tugged on her sleeve. He whispered something in her ear, but Daniel only heard the last part. I didn't think he would come outside so fast. Karen shushed him quickly and gave Daniel a deadly look, as if the boy's confession was his fault. Then she spoke loudly, trying to cover the mistake. He didn't say anything. He is upset. You're upsetting him. Daniel shook his head. This was getting ridiculous. He walked toward his car to take a closer look at the damage. The headlight wasn't just cracked, it was completely smashed. Pieces of glass lay scattered on the ground. The metal around the light was bent slightly inward from the force of the brick. Repairing the headlight alone would cost money, but the dent might cost even more. Daniel bent down, picked up a small shard of the broken glass, and held it between his fingers. The sharp edge glinted in the sunlight. Behind him, Karen suddenly started speaking louder, as if she was trying to attract attention. "Everyone leaves their trash on the street," she complained loudly. "Everyone drives too fast. Everyone is noisy. And this man wants to blame my child for everything wrong." Daniel turned back to face her. "This isn't about the neighborhood. This is about what just happened." Karen ignored him. She was talking more to the air than to him now. "This is harassment," she declared. "You are harassing my family." Daniel blinked. "Harassing? I'm asking for compensation for damage your son caused." Karen pointed dramatically at her son. "You shouted at him. He is sensitive. He has anxiety." The boy looked confused at that statement, but Karen pushed forward. Daniel sighed deeply. He knew exactly what she was doing, acting loud, dramatic, emotional. She wanted to control the narrative. If neighbors heard her shouting, she wanted them to think that she was the victim, not the person whose car had been destroyed. But Daniel wasn't backing down. "Look," he said slowly, "I'm trying to solve this calmly. I have proof. I'm giving you the chance to settle it privately." Karen stepped back, holding her son's hand like she was preparing to leave. "We're done here. My son and I are going home." Daniel's eyes widened. "Excuse me? You can't just walk away." Karen smirked. "Watch me." She turned around and started pulling her son toward the house. The kid stumbled behind her, looking nervous and guilty. Daniel felt his patience snap. He called out, "If you walk away, I will call the police." Karen froze mid-step. Slowly, very slowly, she turned around. Her expression changed again. Fear flickered behind her eyes, not for herself, but for the trouble her son could get into. She opened her mouth, but for the first time since she arrived, she didn't know what to say. The afternoon air hung heavy around them. And part 2 ended there right before everything exploded even more. For a moment, everything felt frozen. Karen stood halfway turned toward her house, one hand gripping her son's wrist, the other curled into a tight fist. Her face was stiff. Her eyes were wide. She looked like someone who had just touched something burning hot and didn't know whether to drop it or hold on tighter. Daniel watched her silently. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't move closer. He simply stood there with a calm but firm expression. "Walk away," Daniel said softly, "and I call the police." Karen swallowed hard. Her son stared at the ground, kicking a small pebble with his shoe. The boy seemed much smaller now, as if all the confidence and laughter he had earlier had vanished somewhere between the brick smashing and the truth being exposed. Slowly, Karen let go of her son's wrist and turned fully toward Daniel again. Her fake confidence returned, but it wasn't smooth this time. It trembled slightly at the edges. "You're being dramatic," she said, trying to sound bold. "There's no need to bring the police into this." Daniel met her eyes. "Then stop running away. We need to talk." Karen sighed loudly, rolling her eyes like a teenager rather than a grown adult. She crossed her arms and tapped her foot on the ground with exaggerated irritation. "Fine," she snapped. "Talk. But make it quick." Daniel gestured toward the broken headlight. "Your son damaged my property. You saw the video. I'm asking again, are you going to take responsibility or not?" Karen's lips tightened. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she lifted her chin and said, "Why didn't you stop him earlier? You saw him outside. You should have come out sooner. Maybe this wouldn't have happened." Daniel blinked. "Are you blaming me now?" Karen didn't hesitate. "Yes. You could have prevented this. Daniel stared at her in disbelief. How was I supposed to know a kid standing near my car was planning to throw a brick at it? Karen shrugged dramatically. Maybe you should pay more attention. Maybe you should keep your car safe. Maybe. Daniel cut her off sharply. Your son smashed it. Your son is responsible. Karen jerked her head back, offended. He's just a child. And I'm an adult, Daniel said calmly. And as the adult, I'm telling you, this isn't acceptable. Karen snorted, her voice rising. What do you want? To ruin his life over a stupid light? Daniel pointed again at the broken headlight. It's not stupid. It costs money. Karen's eyes flashed. Money? Is that what you care about? You know, you seem like the type of person who gets angry over anything. Daniel stayed quiet. Arguing with Karen felt like trying to stop the wind with your hands. No matter how much he explained, she twisted reality around herself like a shield. But he wasn't giving up. Your son needs to learn consequences, he said. Karen laughed loudly aloud, fake laugh that echoed down the street. Consequences, she repeated mockingly. He's 13. What consequences does a child need? He didn't kill anyone. It's just a car. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. Not because of her words, but because of how easily she dismissed responsibility. The boy shifted uncomfortably behind her. His guilt was written all over his face, but Karen shielded him with her anger. He doesn't know any better, Karen continued. He's just playful. He didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Daniel raised his eyebrows. My feelings? He smashed my car, not my feelings. Karen waved her hand. Same thing. Daniel took a deep breath. Look. I'm trying to be reasonable. You keep avoiding responsibility. Are you or are you not going to pay for the repairs? Karen's face suddenly softened, an expression that looked almost unnatural on her. She leaned forward a little and said in a low voice. Why don't you just drop this? It's not a big deal. Daniel stepped back. It is a big deal. Karen sighed again, louder this time. Fine. Maybe I'll pay. Maybe. But I need to think about it. Daniel shook his head. No. Not maybe. You need to decide now. Karen's eyes hardened instantly. Don't tell me what to do. And just like that, all softness vanished. She stepped closer, standing just inches from his face. You think you're so perfect? You think your car is more important than my son? Daniel stayed still. He didn't move. He didn't react. Karen kept going. Do you even know how sensitive he is? Do you know he has trouble making friends? Do you know he struggles in school? He didn't mean harm. He's been under pressure. Daniel blinked. I'm sorry he's struggling. But that doesn't excuse this. Karen paused. Her voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. You keep talking like this, and I swear, I will make sure the whole neighborhood hears what a bully you are. Daniel sighed. Karen, bullying is what your son did to my car. Karen gasped dramatically. How dare you? He's a child. Daniel spoke calmly, children learn from consequences. You shielding him from everything isn't helping him. Karen's face changed again, this time into something sharper. Cold. Calculated. She stepped back and looked around the street. The neighbors' houses were quiet, but curtains gently shifted, clearly, people were peeking out. Karen loved an audience. She raised her voice quickly. If anyone is watching, please know, this man is threatening my child. Daniel froze. What? I didn't even. Karen kept yelling, her arms waving like she was signaling a ship across the ocean. He is yelling at us. He is being aggressive. He is making us feel unsafe. Daniel stared at her, stunned.
I haven't yelled once." Karen continued shouting, ignoring him completely.
Her son tugged her shirt.
"Mom, stop. Please." But Karen didn't stop. She pointed at Daniel dramatically. "If anything happens to my son, it will be because of you." Daniel felt his patience break.
Not in anger, but in exhaustion. "Karen," he said firmly, "I'm done arguing.
We're wasting time.
You have one final chance, take responsibility or I call the police."
Karen stopped yelling.
Her body stiffened.
Her mouth snapped shut.
The mention of police hit harder this time.
Much harder.
She looked at her son. He looked terrified. For the first time, Daniel saw a crack in Karen's confidence that wasn't fake.
A real crack.
She whispered sharply to her son, "Go inside." The boy obeyed quickly, walking past Daniel without looking up. He hurried to the house and disappeared inside.
Karen watched him go.
Then she turned back to Daniel, her voice low and tight.
"You want to involve the police? Fine," she said. "But remember, you asked for this."
She stepped back slowly, her eyes never leaving Daniel's. The air between them felt heavy, like something big was coming. Something bigger than smashed headlights, arguments, or shouting. And as Karen walked toward her house, closing the door behind her,
Daniel realized. This fight was only getting worse. And the real storm hadn't even started yet. The street grew quiet again after Karen slammed her door shut.
Daniel stood alone in his driveway, staring at the spot where she had been moments ago. The broken headlight lay in pieces, small shards gleaming like sharp ice in the sunlight. A light breeze blew, making the leaves rustle in the trees, but everything else felt frozen in place. Daniel rubbed his forehead, exhausted.
He had never expected his peaceful afternoon to turn into a dramatic showdown with the neighborhood's most infamous troublemaker. He pulled out his phone again and looked at the video. The recording was clear. Too clear. The boy lifting the brick. The evil little grin. The crash. The laugh afterward. Daniel watched it again, not because he doubted what happened, but because something bothered him. Why had the boy done it? Kids misbehaved. Kids made mistakes. Kids broke things sometimes. But this felt different. There was something cold behind the boy's smile. Something that didn't feel like simple mischief. Daniel replayed the moment when the boy looked directly at the camera. The boy's eyes flickered with something like satisfaction. Like he knew exactly what he was doing. And that made Daniel uneasy. Still, he pushed the thought aside. For now, he needed to prepare. If Karen refused to take responsibility, and it seemed she would, then the police would need the video. But before Daniel could decide what to do next, his phone buzzed. A message from a number he didn't recognize. "Delete that video." Daniel blinked. He read it again. Was this Karen? Or someone else? Then another message arrived immediately. "You don't know what you're getting into." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't normal. Karen was dramatic, but this message didn't sound like her voice. She usually threatened loudly and proudly. She wouldn't hide behind an anonymous number. Daniel typed back. "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared for a second, someone typing. But then they disappeared. No reply. Daniel felt a small chill crawl up his spine. He glanced toward Karen's house. The curtains in the living room window moved slightly, like someone had just stepped away from them. Maybe she was watching him. Maybe she had sent the message. But the tone. It felt different. Daniel took a breath. He couldn't let fear cloud his judgment. He opened the security app again and downloaded a backup of the video to his cloud storage. Then he saved an extra copy to his laptop inside the house. This evidence was too important. Too dangerous to lose. He checked the driveway again and noticed something new, another brick sitting behind the bush near the fence. He frowned. Why were there 2 bricks? Where had the boy even gotten them? The neighborhood wasn't under construction.
No one used bricks around here.
Daniel crouched and picked up the second brick.
It was heavy, rough, and covered in dry dirt.
Had the boy planned to hit the car again? Or was someone else involved?
Before Daniel could think further, he heard a sudden sound.
Click. A door opening.
He looked up to see Karen stepping outside again, but this time, she wasn't shouting.
She wasn't running toward him. She wasn't acting dramatic. She walked slowly, almost cautiously.
She approached the driveway with little steps, her hands clasped together awkwardly.
Her posture was stiff, like someone pretending to be calm while her insides were shaking. Daniel straightened. "What now?" he asked quietly. Karen stopped a safe distance away, not close enough for confrontation, but close enough to talk.
Her eyes were different this time, not full of rage, not full of pride.
They looked nervous. "I want to see the video," she said. Daniel blinked. "Before you said it meant nothing." Karen looked around, as if checking to make sure no one else was listening. "Just show me." Daniel hesitated for a second, then held out his phone with the video playing. Karen watched the screen. Her face remained blank for the first few seconds. Then something changed. Her eyebrows twitched. Her lips tightened. Her breathing became shallow. She wasn't shocked by the act.
She was shocked by something else.
Something in the background.
Suddenly, she grabbed the phone from Daniel's hand.
"Hey!"
Daniel reached for it, but she held it out of his reach, staring at the video intensely.
"What do you see?" Daniel asked. Karen didn't answer. She replayed the same 3 seconds over and over again, the moment the boy lifted the brick. Daniel tried to look at the screen over her shoulder. Everything looked normal. "What are you looking at?" he repeated. Karen finally lowered the phone. Her face was pale. Very pale.
"Nothing," she said quickly, handing the phone back.
"I have to go." "What? That's it?" Daniel asked. "You said you wanted to see."
"I have to go," she repeated sharply, almost whispering, then turned around and rushed into her house.
She closed the door faster than before. Daniel stared at the closed door. She wasn't angry. She wasn't defensive. She wasn't dramatic. She was scared. But of what?
Daniel opened the video again and watched the same moment Karen had replayed.
He looked in the background. The driveway. The fence. The grass. The sky. Everything seemed normal. But then, something caught his eye. A shadow. A large, tall shadow near the fence, too tall to be the boy's. Too still to be a passing person. Too solid to be a tree's movement. Daniel paused the video and zoomed in. The shadow appeared right before the boy lifted the brick. A strange shape. A figure. Standing just outside the fence. Watching. Daniel's stomach tightened. Was someone else there? Someone Karen recognized? Someone she didn't want to talk about? Suddenly everything made sense. Karen's pale face. Her sudden change of tone. Her nervous behavior. Maybe it wasn't about her son at all. Maybe it was about the person in the shadow.
Daniel stepped back, his heart pounding with a new kind of fear. This wasn't just a kid smashing a car. Something bigger was happening in the background, literally. A mystery hiding behind the fence. Daniel closed his phone slowly. And for the first time since the incident started, he realized. Karen wasn't the only problem. Someone else was involved. Someone watching. Someone who didn't want the truth to come out. And that someone was now part of this story. Daniel stood in his driveway, still gripping his phone, still staring at the paused video of the tall shadow behind the fence. A cold feeling spread across his chest. Everything was wrong. This wasn't just about a broken headlight anymore.
This wasn't only Karen's drama or her son's misbehavior. Something else had been there. Someone else.
He glanced again toward Karen's house. The curtains that had moved earlier were now completely still. Not a single sign of movement came from inside. It felt like the whole place was holding its breath. Daniel walked toward the fence where the shadow had appeared. The grass was tall, swaying lightly in the breeze, but nothing unusual stood there now.
No footprints. No sign of someone recently standing there.
Only the quiet hum of a neighborhood that pretended to be normal.
A chill moved through him. Was he overthinking it? Or was this something bigger than he realized?
He walked back to the driveway and played the video again.
Once more, the shadow appeared for a split second. Not moving. Just watching. Why would Karen panic after seeing this? Why would she run back inside so fast? Unless
she knew exactly who that shadow belonged to.
Daniel tucked his phone into his pocket.
If Karen was hiding something, he needed answers.
And he needed them now.
He walked toward Karen's door and knocked, firmly, but not aggressively.
No answer. He knocked again. Karen, we need to talk. Still nothing.
He pressed his ear near the door. He heard faint footsteps inside, quick, nervous, moving away from the entrance. Karen, he said loudly, I saw something in the video. I know you saw it too.
Silence. Then suddenly, click.
The sound of a deadbolt locking.
Karen wasn't coming out. Daniel stepped back. He didn't want to force anything. But he wasn't going to leave either. He stood on the porch for a moment, thinking. What should he do? Should he go home and call the police? Should he wait? Should he try to talk to the boy? Before he could decide, the door opened a crack. Karen's eye peered through the small gap.
Her voice was low and sharp. You need to leave, she whispered.
Daniel frowned. Not until we talk. Karen shook her head violently. You don't understand. You need to go home right now. Karen, Daniel said softly, what was that shadow? Who was standing there? Her face tightened instantly. Her breathing grew uneven. I don't know what you're talking about. Karen, Daniel repeated, I saw your face. You recognized something in the video.
She looked around nervously as if someone might be watching them even now.
Then she whispered, delete it. Daniel blinked.
So the mysterious messages were from her, or someone close to her. I'm not deleting anything, he said firmly.
You need to explain.
Suddenly, Karen pushed the door open wider and stepped out onto the porch.
She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't loud. She looked scared. Truly scared.
Listen, she said quickly, her voice shaking.
You have no idea what you're getting into. That shadow, that person, you don't want to mess with him. Daniel felt his stomach drop.
Her fear wasn't fake.
It was real. Who is he? He asked. Karen pressed her lips together, refusing to say. But her eyes said enough, whoever stood behind that fence was someone dangerous enough to frighten even her.
She took a step closer, lowering her voice.
Please, Daniel. Just forget everything. Fix your car. I'll pay you quietly. Just don't involve police. Don't make noise. Now Daniel's heartbeat picked up. Why? What are you afraid of?
Karen opened her mouth, but then something changed in her expression.
Fear turned into pure panic. She looked past Daniel's shoulder, toward the street. Her face went white.
Daniel slowly turned around to see what she was staring at. A black SUV was crawling down the road, slow, silent, tinted windows hiding whoever was inside. The car didn't look like it belonged to a neighbor.
It didn't look friendly. It didn't look normal.
It rolled to a stop 2 houses down.
The engine stayed on.
Karen grabbed Daniel's arm suddenly.
Go inside. Now. Daniel pulled away. Karen, what is going on?
She shook her head frantically.
Just go. Please, just go. Daniel wasn't used to seeing Karen like this.
Her hands were trembling. Her eyes were filled with real fear, not exaggerated drama. Something or someone terrified her.
The SUV window rolled down slowly. A man's face appeared for just a second. Cold eyes. Expressionless. Watching.
Daniel felt a shiver crawl down his spine. Karen forced a smile, the fakest, most terrified smile he had ever seen, and waved at the SUV as if greeting a friendly neighbor.
The SUV window rolled back up. Then the car drove away, slowly, as if warning them both that it could return any time. When the car disappeared around the corner, Karen exhaled shakily and pressed her back against the wall of her house. Her legs almost gave up beneath her. Daniel stepped closer. Karen, who was that? Karen wiped her eyes roughly, pretending she wasn't crying. No one. You didn't see anything. Karen. She swallowed hard. Her voice came out broken. It's my ex-husband. Daniel was silent. He's always watching, Karen whispered. Even when you don't see him. Even when you think you're safe. Daniel felt a twist in his chest. Suddenly her behavior made sense. Her fear. Her strange reactions. Her desperation. Her silence. He saw the video, she said quietly. He saw it before I did. Daniel's eyes widened. But, how? Karen looked away. He has ways. He always has ways. Daniel remembered the text message. Delete that video. You don't know what you're getting into. That wasn't Karen. That was him. Karen's ex. Daniel's voice softened. Karen, is your son safe? She nodded weakly. He won't hurt him, unless I make him angry. Unless I make a mistake. Unless someone else makes trouble. Her eyes lifted toward Daniel. This is why I need you to stop, she said. Don't call the police. Don't push this. Just let me handle it. Daniel felt torn. He didn't want to put her or her son in danger. But he also couldn't let fear control him. Karen, he said, your son still damaged my car. A small humorless laugh escaped her lips. Compared to everything else I'm dealing with, that car is nothing. Then she stepped back into her house. You didn't see anything, she whispered. And you didn't hear anything. She closed the door quietly. No slam. No shouting. Just fear. Daniel stood there for a long moment. Looking at the locked door. Thinking about the shadow in the video. Thinking about the man in the SUV. Karen had been trying to escape something much bigger than him. Something far darker. Something dangerous. And without realizing it, Daniel had just stepped into it too. Daniel stood alone on Karen's porch long after the door shut. His thoughts twisted in every direction like tangled wires. The broken car, the mysterious shadow, the black SUV with silent eyes inside. Karen's trembling voice, her warning. Everything felt heavier than before. Part of him wanted to walk away and pretend this problem didn't exist. But another part, the stronger part, knew he couldn't just leave things like this. Not after seeing real fear in Karen's eyes. Not after seeing her son hiding behind the curtains like a scared child. He walked back to his driveway. His car headlight still lay shattered on the ground. A small piece of brick rested inside the broken glass. He picked it up. Held it in his hand. And something snapped inside him. No, he whispered. This isn't right. His car was damaged. Karen was hiding something dangerous. A strange man was watching the neighborhood. And nobody was doing anything. Daniel pulled his phone out and opened his call history. His thumb hovered over the screen. Should he call the police? Karen begged him not to. But her fear didn't change the truth. A crime was still a crime. Daniel took a long breath and pressed the call button. 911, what's your emergency?
He explained everything: the damaged car, the video recording, the unknown shadow, and the strange SUV.
We will send officers to your location, the operator said. Daniel ended the call, exhaled slowly, and waited. Minutes later, 2 police cars pulled onto his street.
Their lights were not flashing, but their presence felt heavy.
The officers stepped out, 1 male, 1 female. Officer Brooks, the male officer, approached first. You the caller? Daniel nodded. Yeah. Thank you for coming. Let's see the video, Officer Brooks said. Daniel played the recording right there on the sidewalk.
The officers leaned close, watching carefully. The boy appeared first, smiling, lifting the brick, smashing the headlight. But the real tension rose when the shadow figure appeared behind the fence.
Officer Brooks froze the frame. Officer Reyes, the female officer, squinted at the image.
That's a person, she said quietly.
Do you recognize him? Brooks asked Daniel.
No, Daniel replied.
But Karen, she reacted like she knew exactly who it was. Brooks raised an eyebrow. Where is Karen now?
She's inside her house, Daniel said.
But she's scared. Really scared.
The officers exchanged a quick look, the kind that said they understood something Daniel didn't.
We'll talk to her, Brooks said. They walked toward Karen's house. Daniel followed at a distance. Brooks knocked firmly but politely. Police. Karen, open the door please. For a moment, there was nothing. No footsteps. No voice. No movement. Then slowly, the door opened only a few inches. Karen's face appeared, pale, empty, tired. Yes, she whispered.
Ma'am, Officer Reyes said softly, we need to ask you a few questions.
Karen looked at Daniel behind the officers. Her eyes filled with fear, not anger.
I told you not to do this, she whispered at him, barely moving her lips.
We need to see your son, Brooks said. Karen hesitated, then stepped aside. Come in. The officers entered. Daniel stood on the porch, unsure if he should follow.
Karen looked at him again, this time not angry, not scared, just broken.
You should go home, she said.
No, Daniel replied quietly.
I'm not leaving until I know you and your son are safe. Karen didn't respond. She turned and walked inside. Daniel entered behind her.
Karen's house smelled faintly of dust and old fear, like nothing here had been peaceful for a very long time.
The curtains were closed. The lights were dim.
The boy Max stood near the hallway, clutching a small toy car in his hand.
He looked down, avoiding everyone's eyes. Officer Reyes gave him a gentle smile. Hey, can we talk for a second? Max nodded slowly. Brooks looked at Karen. Does anyone else live here? Karen shook her head. Does anyone have a key besides you? She hesitated. No. Brooks asked the next question even slower. Has anyone been around the house today? Someone who shouldn't be? Karen's shoulders tensed. Her hands tightened into fists.
No, she said softly, but her voice cracked.
Officer Brooks stared at her carefully. Ma'am, are you sure?
Karen closed her eyes for a long moment.
Then she broke.
No, she whispered.
I'm not sure. I'm never sure.
Her legs trembled, and she sat on the couch before she collapsed.
Reyes put a hand on her shoulder. Karen, if someone is threatening you. But Karen shook her head hard. You don't understand. He doesn't threaten. He watches. He waits. He appears when he wants. He disappears when he wants.
And if you confront him, he becomes worse.
Who is he? Brooks asked. Karen looked toward her son. Max's small hands were shaking. My ex-husband, she whispered. Reyes knelt beside her. Is he dangerous? Karen didn't answer. She didn't need to.
The fear in her eyes answered everything.
Brooks straightened. We need to search the backyard. Karen panicked instantly. No. No, please.
It's only to make sure everything is safe, Reyes said softly.
Karen covered her face, breathing fast. She knew her ex-husband hated the police.
She knew what could happen if the officers found signs of him.
But it was too late. Brooks and Reyes stepped outside into the backyard. Daniel stayed inside with Karen and Max. Minutes passed. Karen paced in circles, twisting her fingers, whispering to herself. Max sat silently, staring at the floor.
Daniel stood near the window, watching the officers through a small gap in the curtain.
Reyes checked the fence. Brooks examined the ground. They moved slowly, carefully, professionally. Then suddenly, Brooks stopped.
He crouched near a muddy patch close to the fence. Daniel felt his heartbeat climb.
What did he find? Reyes joined him. They talked in low voices for a few seconds. Then Brooks turned toward the house and called out. Karen! We need you outside for a moment.
Karen's face drained of color.
No, please no. The officers didn't sound angry. They didn't sound surprised. They sounded concerned and serious. Daniel opened the back door. Karen, you should see. Karen walked like someone heading toward a nightmare she had seen 100 times before. Daniel followed behind. Brooks pointed at the ground. There, in the mud. A footprint. Large. Deep. Fresh. And directly next to it, a cigarette butt. Karen's ex smoked a very specific brand, one Daniel remembered seeing in the SUV. Reyes looked at Karen gently. Ma'am, he was here. Karen's knees nearly buckled.
Brooks continued, and based on the print depth, he was standing here for a long time.
Watching.
Daniel felt every hair on his arms stand up. The shadow wasn't an illusion.
The SUV wasn't a coincidence. The fear wasn't exaggerated. Karen and Max were being watched. Constantly.
Reyes spoke softly but firmly. Karen, you and your son need protection. But he'll get angry, Karen whispered.
Brooks shook his head. He already is. Karen finally broke into tears, real, raw, terrified tears. Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're not alone anymore. We're going to fix this. For the first time, Karen didn't argue. She didn't shout. She didn't deny. She just cried quietly while the officers discussed what would happen next. And as Daniel looked at the footprint in the mud, one chilling fact became clear. The real danger hadn't even started yet. The backyard felt colder than before. Not because of the weather, but because of the footprint. That large, deep mark in the mud had changed everything. It was proof. Proof that Karen's ex-husband had been standing there. Watching the house. Watching Daniel. Watching the boy. Officer Brooks walked Karen back inside while Officer Reyes took photos of the evidence. Daniel followed them, his heart heavier than ever. Karen sank onto the couch. Her hands shook violently.
Max sat beside her, slowly leaning against her arm, trying to comfort her even though he was just a child himself.
Daniel felt something ache inside him. This wasn't the loud, dramatic Karen he thought he knew. This was a scared mother trapped in a life she didn't want. Officer Brooks spoke calmly. Karen, we can't ignore this anymore. We need to get you and your son somewhere safe. Karen wiped her tears with trembling hands. But if he finds out? Reyes entered the living room again.
He already knows we're here.
Karen froze. Daniel looked at her with concern. What do you mean? Reyes sighed and handed her phone to Brooks. When we were outside, that SUV passed again. Twice. The same one you described. Daniel's stomach tightened.
Karen whispered, "He's watching."
Officer Brooks stepped forward. "Karen, listen to me. There are laws to protect you. You don't have to live like this." Karen stared at the floor, silent. Max tugged her sleeve. "Mom, can we go somewhere else? I don't like it here."
Her eyes filled again.
Daniel knelt down beside Max. "You're very brave, you know that?" Max didn't answer. He just nodded slowly.
Officer Reyes sat across from Karen.
"We can get you a protection order.
We can arrange transport tonight.
We can keep you and your son safe." Karen shook her head weakly. "You don't know him. He doesn't stop. He doesn't listen."
Brooks leaned in, his voice firm.
"He will this time." Silence. A long, heavy silence. Then, a sudden sound. Tap. Tap.
Someone knocked on Karen's front door.
Very slowly. Very softly. Karen's eyes widened. "No, no, no." Reyes stood instantly. "Stay here."
Brooks moved toward the door quietly, his hand on his holster. Daniel felt a wave of dread wash over him. The knocking continued, gentle, patient, terrifying.
Brooks called out, "Who is it?" No answer. He checked the peephole. He stepped back. "It's the SUV driver." Karen covered her mouth to keep from screaming. Reyes whispered, "Backup is already on the way. Just stall him." Brooks opened the door only a few inches. A tall man stood outside. Dark coat. Cold eyes. Silent expression. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. He didn't even look surprised. Brooks said, "Can I help you, sir?" The man finally spoke. His voice was calm. Too calm.
"I'm here for my family."
Daniel felt every muscle tighten in his body.
The man's eyes moved past Brooks and landed directly on Karen. He smiled a small, chilling smile.
"Hello, Karen." Karen shook violently. Reyes stepped in front of her protectively. Brooks spoke again, stronger.
"Sir, you need to stay outside.
We're handling a case here." The man lifted his chin. "This is my house." Brooks shook his head. "No, it's not." The man's eyes shifted to Daniel. Then to Max. He smiled again, wider. "I see new friends." Daniel clenched his fists.
Brooks stepped outside, closing the door behind him, leaving the man on the porch.
Karen tried to listen, but Reyes guided her back onto the couch. "It's okay," Reyes whispered. "You're safe inside." But Karen wasn't listening.
She stared at the floor, whispering to herself, "He found us, he found us, he found us."
Max crawled into her lap, hugging her tightly. Daniel looked toward the door, hearing muffled voices. Officer Brooks stayed firm. The man stayed calm. Too calm. Sirens echoed in the distance, backup arriving. Reyes looked toward the window. Good. They're almost here. But before anyone could exhale in relief,
the man outside raised his voice so everyone inside could hear.
He said one simple sentence. "Karen, if you walk out with them, I will see you again. Tonight. Tomorrow. Next year. You can't hide from me." Karen covered her ears. Max started crying.
And Daniel felt anger rise like fire inside him.
Officer Brooks raised his voice. "Sir, step back. Now." The man didn't move. Backup police cars turned onto the street, fast.
4 more officers rushed toward the house.
The man still didn't move. Instead, he smirked.
2 officers grabbed his arms and pulled him away from the door.
He didn't resist. He didn't fight.
He just looked at Karen one last time through the window.
His smile didn't fade. Even as he was handcuffed.
Even as he was taken to the patrol car. Even as the officers shut the door. Karen collapsed onto the carpet, crying into her hands. Reyes sat beside her. It's over. You're safe. But Karen shook her head. He's never gone. You don't understand. He always comes back. Reyes put a gentle hand on her shoulder. Not this time. We're filing charges. You'll get protection. We'll help you. Karen looked at Daniel with tired, broken eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't want you involved. Daniel shook his head. Karen, you didn't put me in danger. He did. Max wiped his tears with his sleeve. Are we going to be okay? Karen hugged him tightly. Yes, baby, she whispered. We are. The officers came back inside. Brooks spoke softly, he's in custody. And we found more evidence on him. Enough to keep him away for a long time. Karen let out a shaky breath, the first real breath of relief Daniel had seen her take. Reyes continued, tonight, you and your son will stay somewhere safe. Tomorrow, we'll help you start fresh. Karen nodded slowly. Then she looked at Daniel, really looked at him. You didn't have to help, she said. Daniel smiled gently. I know. But I did. Brooks turned to Daniel. By the way, sir, we reviewed the footage. You'll be compensated for the car damage. Daniel laughed softly. Honestly, the car is the least important thing right now. Karen managed a small, genuine smile, the first he had ever seen from her. The officers guided Karen and Max outside. A police van waited to take them somewhere safe for the night. Before she stepped in, Karen turned back to Daniel. Thank you, she whispered. For not walking away. Nobody ever helps us. But you did. Daniel nodded. You're not alone anymore. The van doors closed. The police left. The street became quiet again. Daniel stood in his driveway, looking at the broken headlight and the piece of brick still lying on the ground. This whole nightmare had started because of that one small thing. That one moment. That one throw. But now. It had ended with something bigger. Justice. Safety. A new beginning for Karen and Max. Daniel looked at the empty street, exhaled slowly, and walked back inside. For the first time that day, he felt peace.